Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of China 101. Last time we talked about if there's a possibility that that mainland China will attack Taiwan and have a military conquest. This time, I want to kind of continue the topic, and give you a simple explanation why China mainland and Taiwan exist. So when you look at this map, when you look at one of the map that is rotating right now in the image, you will see the map of Qing Dynasty. Yes, this one. And in this picture, you will see that China and Taiwan is included in the same map. Plus, to the north, you see you see a huge chunk of Mongolia, and then to the east, to the west, you see the current day Xinjiang and Tibet. So back to the Qing Dynasty, there was no separation between mainland China and Taiwan. And however, back to the Qing Dynasty, there was also really little. There were only a small amount of Han people living on the island. Taiwan didn't really get developed until the first Sino-Japanese War, and that took place in 1898, which the Qing Dynasty lost. And after losing the war, Qing Dynasty and Japan signed a treaty, which the island of Taiwan, which back then was called Liuqiu, was ceded completely to Imperial Japan. And after the island was ceded, the Japanese started their colonization program. They built infrastructure on Taiwan, which they built, post office, schools, railway stations, you name it, bunch of like modern infrastructure programs. And also they started to teach Japanese to the local native, like the native, and the Han people who live on Taiwan. So that is why when you talk to the older generation, like a lot older, like our grandparents, you will find a lot of those grandpas and grandmas who live in Taiwan. They speak fluent Japanese, and that was because until Japan lost World War II, Taiwan was under control of Japan. Now, when we talk about modern day Taiwan, the modern day Taiwan has really little to do with has something to do with Japanese, but more to do with the Republic of China. When the Qing Dynasty was overthrown in 1910 by Sun Yat-sen, which was considered the father of modern day China by both Chairman Mao and Chiang Kai-shek. And he overthrown the Qing Dynasty and established the Republic of China, which is kind of democratic, but not democratic at the same time. But that is a story for another day. So after Qing Dynasty was overthrown, the Republic of China was established. Until then, Taiwan was still part of the Republic of China. Now, fast forward to World War II, Japan invaded China. We all know that, and the people and the Republic of China, which was led by Kuomintang, and the president was Chiang Kai-shek, because Sun Yat-sen already died. So they led the defense force against the Japanese invasion, and the Japanese invaded China in 1937, and 8 years later, 1945, 2 nuclear bombs dropped, and Japan surrendered. So that's basically how how the ground foundation was set for the People's Republic and the Republic of China. Has a lot to do with Japan, because, and here's why. After 8 years of war, the nationalists, which is the Kuomintang, they are really exhausted, because for the 8-year war, the Kuomintang lost approximately 2 to 3 million troops. So they were exhausted. But when they were fighting the Japanese army, Mao Zedong, he led the Chinese communists to Western China, and he hid himself because they were losing against he was losing against Chiang Kai-shek because Mao Zedong didn't have a formal army. So he was nowhere when it comes to manpower, training, equipment. He was nowhere close to Chiang Kai-shek's army, and that's why he had to flee. But when Japan invade China, Chiang Kai-shek have to pay full attention to the invasion, and he left Mao Zedong unchecked, and that's how Mao Zedong can develop himself. And that is why when Japan surrendered, and the communists and the nationalists start to fight civil war, all of a sudden the communists have have an army of more than 2 million. And you have to put that into perspective. When Mao Zedong was fleeing from the army, from Chiang Kai-shek's army, he only had 40,000 troops. That's all he had. He brought 40,000 troops with him, and he went to Western China and he hid himself. But when the war against Japan was over, Mao Zedong had over 2 million troops, and that's how the civil war of China started. Now, when we talk about the civil war of China, we have to talk about the United States because United States was deeply involved in the civil war of China. First thing, when civil war first break out from 1945 to 1946, the National Army led by Chiang Kai-shek had great success in the early war. The nationalist soldiers of the Republic of China had great combat experience, even though they are exhausted from 8 years of fighting the Japanese. They had experience, and they quickly took over many key strategic locations in Manchuria. However, under the direction of back then President Truman, the U.S. wanted to achieve a peace deal between the communists and the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek. And the person that was responsible for this was George C. Marshall, one of the great generals in the Pacific Theater. He was sent to China to try to bring both parties together. And when General Marshall was there, multiple ceasefires were called upon, and those ceasefires significantly affected the momentum of the nationalist army. During those ceasefires, the communists reorganized their armies, they replenished their troops, and they fortified their defenses. In addition, the Red Army from the USSR never left the territory they controlled after defeating the Japanese army in northern Manchuria. And that is also a great help to the CCP for the later stages of the Civil War, because USSR continued to give the Chinese communists money, equipment, and military training. So that's how the Chinese Civil War turned from the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek having the advantage to later in the day Mao Zedong have the advantage. Even though Chiang Kai-shek definitely made some mistakes during the Civil War campaign, but however, those ceasefires ordered by General Marshall to try to bring these two parties together and achieve peace definitely gave the communists enough time to replenish their troops, fortify their locations, and to plan a counterattack. So that was a big failure on U.S. part. Personally speaking, President Truman should the easiest thing for President Truman to do is complete support the army of Chiang Kai-shek, because in World War II we have U.S. Army stationed in China, the most famous of them, the Flying Tigers. So if the nationalists have the full support of the U.S., there's no way Mao Zedong can hold on to those cities or those strategic locations he took over. Now, that was the first that was the first big step to nowadays mainland China and Taiwan. The second biggest step was the UN General Assembly voting in 1971. On October 25th, 1971, the People's Republic secured the majority of the votes from the members of the United Nations. Most third world nations was voted in favor of the People's Republic to replace the Republic of China. And Chairman Mao's influence plan to unite the third world worked out perfectly. He was giving food, he was giving money, he was giving weapons, especially to South to African nations that want to establish communist government. He was providing a crap ton of food to Albania, who was causing trouble inside the USSR. But those are stories for another day. Now, with all those third world nation voting for China, and that is kind of expected because they received bribe. But most importantly, Canada, Great Britain, France, Italy, and Turkey, who were all key members of NATO, somehow all voted in favor for the Republic of China to replace they all voted in favor for the People's Republic to replace the Republic of China. And that is really interesting because the whole reason why NATO was established in the first place is to slow the effect of communism and to stand up against the USSR, which is the ground zero of communism. So somehow you have NATO voting in favor of a communistic government to replace a legitimate government that is the Republic of China, and that is a big failure on the United States to doing a good job to convince its closest ally to vote against, to say no to a communistic government that control 1.4 billion people, and that is the second biggest step towards what we currently see as mainland China and Taiwan. Now, the final nail in the coffin is the U.S. normalization relationship with China. And this has a lot to do with Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger's secret diplomatic trip to Beijing in July 1972, right before the UN General Assembly voting, if you have been paying attention, which we just talked about, was a great success. Some rumors said that when Kissinger was in China, the CCP licked his boot hard. One of the rumors was that the premier of China, Zhou Enlai, who was the second most powerful person in the Chinese Communist Party, he helped Kissinger get dressed in the morning. And there was one time he even kneeled down to tie Kissinger's shoes. So, but however, due to the secretive nature of Kissinger's visit to China, even until this day, many of the details of his trip were never published. So that's why I said those were rumors, because they were never proven. But one thing we do know was Kissinger was treated like a king for his visit. All of these actions completely blinded Kissinger and made him think that China admired the United States. And China wants the US to be his teacher and teach China the right way to become a responsible international partner. So, on February 21st, 1972, after Kissinger's secret mission, President Richard Nixon had his first formal state visit to China and officially recognized the People's Republic of China. And from that day onward, all of the main Western powers started to establish their formal diplomatic relationship with the People's Republic, and the Republic of China was forgotten. And that's how we arrive at where we are today. The three biggest steps: the failure of making the right choice during the Chinese Civil War, the UN General Assembly voting, the US failed to convince its ally to vote against communism, and then finally, Richard Nixon's formal state visit and recognized China People's Republic as the rightful representative of the people of China. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we have Taiwan and mainland China. And now I'm open for questions.
So I want to just bring you guys the latest news. The office located in New York from the Republic of China, that is Taiwan, has changed their sign in front of their door. Well, in the past it was just like a working office, but now they changed the name into Embassy of the Republic of China. Have you got this news yet? Or if you haven't, then what do you feel after I told you this change? Any comments?
So they changed the name.
Let me find the pictures for you.
Okay.
The working office there. So, well, let's just talk about this possibility. And actually, Miles Gordon has broadcast in his live show as well, saying that okay, so in the future, after the new federal state of China is founded, and then the CCP is taken down, then what do you think of the Taiwan's role? Can you accept that Taiwan is an independent country? And then do you think that the people in mainland China would accept that? Okay, so let's just finish this once for all. So mainland China is a country, and then the Republic of China, meaning Taiwan, is another independent country, which it is as a factual existence. So, what do you think? Or there's another theory okay, so after the CCP is taken down, Taiwan could possibly get involved in the election in mainland China and get their votes. So possibly they can rule, or they can work. Rule is not the right word, but they can form a ministry or a government to organize or to manage the country. So what do you think what would happen after the CCP is done? And let me get the picture for you.
Well, I think after the CCP is done, the right thing to do is definitely to recognize Taiwan as an independent nation, because Taiwan, even when we look at Taiwan right now, Taiwan check all of the boxes of a sovereign nation. What is the definition of a sovereign nation? Well, you have for number one, you need a functional government. And number two, you have a landmass, and number three, you have a complete set of functioning laws. So Taiwan had all those. Taiwan has a really well functioned democratic government. Taiwan has a really have its own landmass, and then at the end Taiwan has Taiwan is a society ruled by law. They have rule of law, and they have functioning laws. So I think definitely the correct thing to do is to recognize Taiwan as an independent nation. But however, in the long run, if 50 years from now, if mainland China become really democratic, become a society, become a rule of law society, and become a great partner of the international community, then I'm sure the mainland Chinese and the people in Taiwan can all have a vote whether or not Taiwan wants to these two nations wants to unite together again and form some kinds of new government that will have the top government expert from Taiwan, and you have the top government expert from mainland China, and this new government will govern both mainland and Taiwan.
Okay, so just for your information, the one that I told you about this page is actually a fake one. So it's fabricated by someone from mainland China, but now people cannot find the people the guy in the picture. So that never happened, and the foreign ministry of Republic of China has already denied the fact. So that's my mistake, but it's just an opportunity to clear these things up. Well, for you guys watching it live, if you see that photo or see that there's a possibility of the consulate of the Republic of China in New York, that is a completely fake news. All right, the foreign ministry of Republic of China has just claimed that. All right, so that's my question. So, Alex, do you have any questions for that? Then I guess no. So I'm good for now, Mandarin.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's if there's no more questions,
Oh, sorry,
that
I closed my microphone earlier. Sorry.
So you do have a question.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Good.
I was actually a really good student. I was listening to Mandarin's lecture.
So have you made notes?
Yeah, I did. It sounds like the U.S. government from the China Civil War, they made a mistake on their policy regarding to how to position Chinese Communist Party. Literally at the beginning, they made a mistake by kind of helping around the CCP, to win the Civil War, and then later on, they have done, like in the 1970s, they have multiple movements that the connection between the US and China start established, and then China is actually under I mean the CCP is under the get help from US a lot, regardless is it directly or indirectly. So that's why they can growing now, become the biggest dictating ship country in the whole planet. So what do you think the Trump administration is doing? And do you have any comments, ideas on the U.S. China Taiwan policy right now? Like, do you think the U.S. is doing the right thing in this moment?
Okay. So first of all, Trump is definitely one of in recent years the best president when it comes to fighting back against communist China. Because when you look at history, I mean, you don't need to look long. You just look at the past 20 years. Nobody done anything against communist China. Bill Clinton didn't do anything against communist China. George W. Bush didn't do anything against communist China, and neither did Barack Obama. So, and the most interesting thing is, after Bill Clinton brought China into the World Trade, the World Trade Association,
Organization, the World Trade Organization,
the WTO, World Trade Organization. China never realized all of those promises they made when they joined the World Trade Organization. I mean, I know Bill Clinton, pretty much went away after because 2001 was Bill Clinton's last term. So what happened to China, after they joined, is not really Bill Clinton's fault, but it was his fault to trust the Chinese Communist Party. Now. But however, later, when you have George W. Bush, when you see China breaking all those promises that when they say they would do when they joined WTO, and you did nothing, and same with Barack Obama, and that is the biggest problem with the United States government in the past 20 years. It's the appeasement policy. It's the same appeasement policy that the European nations, aka Prime Minister Chamberlain, did when he was trying to fight the Nazis. It's all appeasement until the Nazis grew too powerful, and they invaded Poland, and you had no choice but to go to war. Yeah. So now we have Donald Trump. But thank God we have Donald Trump. He started doing something. On communist China. Now he can. I think he did many right things. For example, he addressed the trade issue with China, and now also under his administration, the United States passed the Hong Kong Human Rights Act, and then the House also passed the
Taiwan Act.
The Taiwan Protection Act. So those are good things. But however, if you really want to take down the CCP, those laws is not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. The only thing that will hurt those leaders is you have to attack them personally. you have to take away their wealth. You have to take away their mansions in California. You have to take away their Manhattan condos in New York City. You have to froze their assets in the United States. You have to kick their daughters and sons and
that's
uncles.
gonna hurt them hard.
Yeah, you have to kick their sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, grandpas, grandmas out of the United States, back to Chinese communism. They so enjoy and so praise, and that's when they will that's when the Chinese Communist Party might truly change. But I'm happy to see that the United States is actually moving in that direction, because recently the United States has started to sanction Carrie Lam. Now she's definitely a small fish within the Chinese Communist Party, but sanctioning against Carrie Lam is definitely a step in the right direction. Now, the next step they need to do is definitely froze her personal asset, and Boris Johnson can definitely kick her son and husband out of the United Kingdom, because somehow the woman who praised Chinese Communist Party again somehow have both of her son and husband having UK citizenship and living in the United Kingdom for long term. They should go back to Communist China, the system they so praise. And I think that's the thing that the Western government can definitely do more, is the personal sanctions.
I see. Thank you very much. And I think you answered my question very well.
Okay. All right. Any more questions?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you for all of the participants tonight. And that is China 101 for today. Tune in once again next week, and we will see you again. Bye-bye.